na ikimute hii simu inajimute, so in case imute bana, museme mimi nimerealize wakati ni late sana.
Ilimute
Tulikuwa
ukiwa
tunasema
kwa
we talk about
decision.
the decision theory. It means we choose from a set of alternatives here, if you can see them clearly. So here, so when we talk about a decision, we are choosing from a various set of actions or alternatives available. So that's what we mean by decision.
Excuse.
Then we talk about the decision making process. So this is the process of selecting. So this refers to the process which results in selection from a set of alternatives, courses of action which are available for the decision maker in order to do what? To meet the objectives of a given decision problem more satisfactory. Aya, so tunaharakisha. Next, decision theory in QA. So decision theory in QA
Excuse.
refer to the study which focus on making rational and informed decision.
Excuse mwalimu, we are together.
Decisions where we have
Aya.
multiple decisions. Yes,
Tulikuwa tumekava huko.
haina shida. Sawa sawa, tunarudi na ndio naharakisha. Na mumute tafadhali. Sawa sawa. Now we have different examples of a decision theory. You have the three of them, which must be there in your definition. So it must have the set possible course of action. It must have the alternatives, and it must have the payoffs. Number three, we have some of the concepts, decision maker. So this is a person or a group who makes the decision. That one is fine. Decision problem. We have said this is a situation where this one. So tunasema situation in which a decision maker must choose between several courses of action, which is associated with what? With risk and reward. The key word here is risk and reward. Next, structured and unstructured decision. One, the structured one. There's a clear understanding of the problem. Here, there's a clear understanding of the problem. Unstructured decision, we have incomplete information about the problem. We have incomplete information about the problem. So we cannot tell what's the problem. Alternatives, these are the risks of actions available to a decision maker. So a list of alternatives available to a decision maker, we call it an alternative. Also called the course of action or act or strategy. Next, we have the course of action, which we can call it. These are all possible future events which a decision maker must develop and exhaust, which a decision maker must identify and exhaust. And remember, it is represented in probability. It is in form of probability. Probability. Sawa sawa. An objective, that one is fine. So an objective can either to maximize on cost, to maximize on profit, or minimize on cost, or to achieve a particular level of objectives. So that's all when you talk about an objective. So on a decision objective, it is where a decision maker is either required to maximize on profit, minimize cost, or to maximize on the level of satisfaction. Next, uncertainty. Now, uncertainty is where we don't have a clue on what will happen in the future, and therefore, it is very hard to make a particular decision. But remember, it is associated with probabilistic outcome. It is associated with probabilistic outcome. Now, probabilistic model is a model which is used to do what? It is used to present uncertainty events. So probabilistic model is a model which is used to represent uncertainty events. Payoffs or outcomes, tumesema it can either be a positive number or a negative number. So if a positive number, it's a profit. If a negative number, it's a loss. And therefore, when we talk about payoff, it refers to the final outcome of a decision. So it refers to the last outcome of a decision. Now, conditional payoff, this one is expected outcome of a decision. Expected outcome of a decision. So these are the expected outcome or expected profit or expected loss of a decision. Next payoff table, and you have said it's a table which is used to represent the payoffs. So it's a table which is used to present the payoff. So a table which shows the expected payoff of each alternative and the various cost of action. Tumesema all alternatives are always on vertical line and all the state of nature are always on vertical line. Decision criteria, tumesema these are the measures available to the decision maker in order to choose from various alternatives. So those criteria, to read some of the examples, we shall do them later. We have the events or a regret that tumesema we shall use this one as a good definition. This is where a loss is incurred because of failure of making the best decision. So this is where a decision maker will make a loss because of failure of making the best decision. Now, tukasema this is where the decision maker might end up regretting after making a decision. So that regret is what we call the opportunity loss in this situation. That one is fine. Tuko tumefika hapa. Decision making steps, number one, to identify the problem. Tukasema it's either you maximize profit or minimize cost, or you maximize the desires. Number two, you identify the alternatives. It is either you produce either a particular brand of pen, either A or B. You can choose from either A or B. Number two, you assess the probability of the different outcomes or the events or the state of nature of the alternative chosen. Of the alternative chosen. So of the alternative chosen. Now, ukishachagua, then kama utaenda na pen A, then you need to determine the probabilities and state of nature of pen A. Kama utaenda na pen B, then you also need to determine the probabilities and the state of natures of pen B. Once you do that, then number next, you identify the outcomes. Not the outcome, the payoffs associated with the outcomes or the events. Tukasema we shall use the CVP analysis in this situation because we are limited to this kind of a situation because the others were removed from the syllabus. So we shall deal with CVP. Then number 5, we apply the decision criteria. Na tumesema a decision criteria is a measure which is used to evaluate performance where the decision maker can choose from. That one is fine. So tulikuwa tumefika hapa utility theory. Now when we talk about the utility theory, we're talking about satisfaction. So this is where the decision maker. So utility theory is often used in decision theory to capture the decision maker preference and attitude toward risk. It quantifies the desirability or satisfaction associated with different outcomes. And therefore, in this situation, a decision maker will end up choosing that kind of an alternative that maximizes their outcome or their satisfaction. That maximizes their satisfaction. And this one is very important. Hapo. So that one is what we call utility theory. Sensitivity analysis. Now, when we talk about sensitivity analysis, we are talking about decision theory allows the decision maker to perform sensitivity analysis to assess how changes in input parameter or assumption might affect the outcome of the decision, recommended outcome of the decision. Now, what happens when a decision maker change a particular input of a decision? For example, kama wana produce pen A. Now, what if they decide to do what? To increase the number of pens. So for example, kama alikuwa ameamua ata produce 10,000 pens ndio atatengeneza na uze. What will happen if that person decides to increase the number of pens from 10,000 to 20,000? So what will be the outcome of that decision. That is what we call the decision. That is what we call the sensitivity analysis. That's what we call the sensitivity analysis. So what happens when a particular input is changed? So when we talk about sensitivity analysis, it shows the changes in input. So, it shows the changes in output when a particular change is made in an input. But that one you shall do it in advanced financial management. So about Tafanya, so for now we just need to understand what is sensitivity analysis, and we have said refers to changes in outcome as a result of changing in inputs. So, but for example, that one will be in advanced level. Type or stages of decision, we have single stage and you have multiple stage. A single stage is where this is where the decision maker has one outcome. This is where the decision has one outcome. Now, it's either you produce pen A or pen A. Hakuna pen ingine you can produce. You only have one kind of a decision, and it is conclusive. So it's where the decision has one outcome. So if you produce one pen, then that pen will be the outcome. So hakuwezi kutokea na pen ingine in between. So one outcome does not give rise to another outcome. It involves a payoff table. So in this scenario, you shall use a payoff table. So this is where the decision maker has one outcome in any alternative that he chooses from. So if he chooses from a particular alternative, then he shall have one outcome. Number two, multiple. Now this one is where one outcome give rise to other outcome, or where a particular decision give rise to other decisions. So, and this kind of a scenario shall be represented using a tree diagram. Shall be represented using a tree diagram. This one shall be represented using a tree diagram. So that one shall be represented using a tree diagram. Ina imefanya mambo gani? Shall be represented using a tree diagram. That one is fine. That one is very fine. Decision making environment. Let us talk about decision making environment. We have at least 3 of them. Number one, you have deterministic situation or certainty. So deterministic or certainties. And we can say this is a situation where we have perfect information about the market. So a situation where we have perfect information about the market. Now, so this is a situation where all the possible course of action is known. So they are known. The possible course of actions are known. So in this case of scenario, we have we have the perfect information about the market. So environment where the relevant parameters are known also. This is another definition. Environment where all the parameters are known. And then another one state of nature exists. These are some of the characteristics also. You can find an exam. They can tell you to give characteristic of deterministic situation. You can name them. We have only one set of nature. And then here, nimetaka kusema sahi, the decision maker has information about has complete information about the alternatives. Yeah. Sorry. Hii nasemaje? There. The decision maker have complete and accurate information about the alternative outcomes and probabilities. This means that there is no uncertainty involved in decision making, and the optimal decision process is known. So optimal decision is known. That one is fine. So that one is all about deterministic situation, or we call it certainty. So the decision maker has complete and accurate information about the market. I think that one will be the good definition we can use. This one as a definition. We can use this one as a definition. Imekuwa mbaya. Allah. That one. So the decision maker have complete and accurate information about the market. That is a very good definition we can use. We move on. Let's go to the next one. Decision making under risk. Decision making under risk. That one is another environment under risk. Now, in this situation, one state of nature exists, but the decision maker has information that will fully support the assignment of probabilities value to each state of nature. This one is very important. That one is very important. Tunasema sijui kama hii ndio inaonekana mzuri. I think this one is better. That one. So in this situation, more than one state, it's supposed to be more than, not one, more than. So in this situation, more than one state of nature exists, meaning you might have more than one probability, which represents the alternatives. So more than one state of nature exists, but the decision maker has information that will support the assignment of the probabilities of each state of nature. That one is very important. Now, the events are probabilistic in nature. These are another characteristics that events are probabilistic in nature. Events are probabilistic in nature. Decision making under risk involves situations where decision maker have the knowledge about the probabilities associated with the outcomes. Now, these are another characteristics you can add, that the decision maker has the knowledge of the probabilities associated with the outcome. And then several states of nature might occur. So tumesema we might have more than, in this repetition, several states of nature might occur, meaning we might have more than one state of nature, na ndio tulianzia pale juu tukidefine. So tulianzia pale juu tukidefine. Now, to make decision in such context, several quantitative methods and measures can be used to assess and compare the alternatives. Here are the 4 key concepts to use. Number 1, ndio tutafanya hesabu. This one is very, very important. Number 1, expected monetary value. Expected monetary value, we call it EMV. So for now, nawapatia notes, alafu tutafanya hesabu baadaye. So EMV is the decision criterion that calculates the average or expected financial outcome associated with each alternative. So it calculates the average or the expected. It calculates the average or the expected financial outcome, or financial outcome, or you can also say or financial profit or loss. Financial profits or losses associated with each alternative. It is computed by this one is very important. It's computed by multiplying. So you can either multiply the profit, this one, the gain, which is the profit, with, or the loss with the probabilities of each possible outcomes with the probability. That one is very important. So for you to get the EMV, unachukua the financial profit or the financial loss, you multiply with the probability of each value, with the probability of each value. A good example ndio hii hapa. Can you see it here? EMV. So it is a summation of probabilities you multiply with. So PI, summation of PI multiplied by XI. PI means probability of outcome I. XI means monetary payoff, which can be either profit or loss. So monetary payoff, which can be either positive or loss of outcome I. That one is very, very important. That one is very, very important. So tukimaliza hiyo, tunaenda next. We go to the next one. Now, decision criteria. This one NB, you lazima note somewhere. Choose the criteria is to choose EMV, is to choose the maximum EMV. So the criteria is to choose the maximum. So ukishafanya hesabu yako, so unachagua the one with the highest EMV as your action. Number 2, let us talk about the expected opportunity loss. So this one we call them expected regrets. So expected opportunity loss, we can also call them regrets. Now, refer to a measure that consider the opportunity cost of making a particular wrong decision. And niliwaambia, so if you end up choosing a wrong decision, you might end up making a regret. That regret is what we call the opportunity loss. Now, it is a measure that consider the opportunity loss of making a particular wrong decision. So in an example, you define what is expected opportunity loss. Then you shall say it's a measure that consider the opportunity cost of making. So add the word average. It's an average measure, supposed to be average measure that consider the opportunity of making a particular wrong decision. It calculates the difference between expected payoff of the best decision and the expected payoff of the chosen decision. Hapa juu niliwaambiaje? Highest minus actual. You remember? Highest minus actual is the same. So the highest is the expected. So the difference between the expected payoff of the best decision and the expected payoff of the chosen decision. So expected payoff, you can call them highest. Expected payoff, you can also call them actual. But for now, let us use the word expected payoff of the best. So of the best decision and the expected payoff of the chosen decision. So it's also called the regrets. Also called the regrets. Now, how do you get the EOL? So EOL help the decision maker to assess the cost of suboptimal choices. And the formula, you take the EMV of the best decision, you minus the EMV of the chosen decision. Then decision criteria, choose the lower EML. Sorry, choose the lower EOL. So decision criteria, you choose the lower EOL. Talk about the risk. Now the risks, remember we talk about the risk, the probability of occurrence of a loss. So when we talk about risk, remember we said this is the probability of occurrence of a loss, and it is measured using the coefficient of variation. Sometimes here you can use standard deviation. So if you come up with a standard deviation, you can also use standard deviation to measure risk. But a good one is the coefficient of variation. So coefficient of variation is a good measure of risk. So coefficient of variation is a measure of relative risk. It's a measure of relative risk or adjusted return. It assesses the variability. Variability is another name of standard deviation. So variability is another name of standard deviation of an outcome relative to the expected outcome. Kumaanisha unachukua standard deviation una divide na expected return. So kumaanisha for you to get the coefficient of variation,
No. Mwalimu, are you there? Hello? Since I'm alone here. Mwalimu ameleft.
Light ilikuwa imepotea bwana. Now, let me share with the phone for now. Let me share with the phone at the moment because I'm using a desktop. Na light zilikuwa zimeenda so zimerudi tena. So let me share with the desktop and then tuone. Let me share with phone and then we continue. Okay, continue. So hopefully you can see my screen. Hopefully. Na tulikuwa tumefika hapa. Na sijui mbona hii yangu inakataa. Inaonekana?
We can't see.
Kidogo tu. Let me try again. Now, let me see if it is possible to rotate this screen. Kama itakuwa possible. So can you see the screen now? Inaonekana?
We can, lakini ni kidogo. We just continue. We have the notes.
Inaonekana ni kadogo?
Uh,
Anyway, sasa let's continue. Let me nikingoja hii desktop yangu iwake. Now, I was saying that for EMV, not EMV, we are talking about the coefficient of variation. So coefficient of variation is a measure of relative risk. So mostly it's a relative risk. And for you to get the coefficient of variation, it is that you take the standard deviation of the outcome, you divide with the expected value of the outcome. So coefficient of variation is equal to standard deviation over expected EMV, expected EMV. So for you to get the coefficient of variation, the standard deviation over EMV. So we shall learn how to calculate standard deviation once we shall be doing a question. For now, just know it's standard deviation over the expected outcome or the expected EMV. Now, number next, we talk about the expected value of perfect information. Expected value of perfect information. And we talk about the expected value of perfect information. Refers to the maximum amount paid to acquire the information. So you can define it in 3 ways. Number one, 3 ways or 2 ways. I think 3 ways. Nakonga 3 ways. Inakonga 3 definition. So expected value of perfect information is the maximum amount paid to acquire information. So for example, if you want to acquire particular information, there's amount that you pay in order to get that information. That maximum amount that you pay to acquire information is what we call the expected value of perfect information, or the maximum profit that you get from getting a particular information. So maximum profit acquired to acquire information. From acquiring an information, from acquiring, see to acquire, from acquiring an information is what we call also the perfect value of perfect information. So the maximum profit that a person will end up generating because that person acquired a particular information. And remember, for you to get an information, you need to incur a particular cost. Now, that profit that you get from incurring a cost to get that information is what we call the perfect value of perfect information, or it is the minimum loss that a person will suffer because he refused to pay in order to get the information. So the maximum loss that a person or an individual or a company will end up getting because he or she did not incur the cost of getting the information, then we can categorize it as the value of perfect information. How do we get the value of perfect information? We call it the VOI, value of information. We call it VOI, value of information. So value of information is given by expected value of perfect information, expected value of perfect information, or expected value with perfect information, you less expected value without perfect information. So that is all about it. So VOI is equal to expected value with perfect information minus expected value without perfect information. Now, the expected value of perfect information quantifies the potential benefit of acquiring the additional information before making a decision. It represents the difference between the expected payoff, which you have the perfect information, and the expected payoff, which you make the decision with the current information. Now we have the formula there, another formula there for the expected value of perfect information. So EMV with perfect information, then EMV with current information. That one might be the same with VOI. So I don't think if there's any difference with that one. So that is all about the decision under risk. So decision under risk. That's all about the decision under risk. Then I'll go to the next one. Decision making under uncertainty. That is, we have max-min, max-max, minimax. We have the minimax regret criterion. We have the who is, and then Laplace decision. So we have those are the examples of decision making under uncertainty. As number 3. So to run number 1, uncertainty. So to run number 1, uncertainty. To run number 2, decision of risk, environment of risk. So number 3, decision of uncertainty, decision of uncertainty. And you can say here, more than one state of nature exists, but the decision maker has no knowledge about the various state of nature. Kumaanisha hakuna probabilities, meaning hakuna probabilities. So in this case, there is more than one state of nature which exists, but the decision maker has no knowledge about the various state of nature, not even sufficient information to permit the assignment of probabilities to the state of nature. Meaning, yes, we have more than one state of nature, but we don't have all the information concerning all the state of we have more than alternative we can choose from, but we don't have the information concerning the state of nature associated with that alternative, and therefore we don't have the knowledge or the information about the state of nature, but we might have more than one decision. Now, decision making under uncertainty is challenging task when the decision maker lack information about the probabilities of the various outcomes. In such situation, several decision criteria and rules can be used to make decision, and you have them there. So I think you have them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have 5 of them. So tukishamaliza hizo 5, so I think hii itakuwa sawa sana. So number 1, we have max-min, also called the pessimistic decision. Max-min, also called pessimistic decision. Now, under this one, so max-min decision involves So nataka niangalie kama nami nilikuwa nilitoka sawa. So nasema hii nayo imeenda wapi? Hii nayo imeenda wapi bwana? Ah, sawa sawa, let me see kama itafungua hiyo document. So it is taking time. Okay, sawa, imekubali. So tulikuwa nasema we have one of them here which been max mean. We call them pessimistic decision. So the maximum decision rule involves, so the max mean decision rule involves selecting the alternatives that maximizes the minimum payoff. So it involves selecting the alternative that involves selecting the alternative that maximizes the minimum payoff. So you select that alternative which maximizes the minimum. So the keyword is there, maximizes the minimum payoff. In other words, it's a conservative approach, meaning it focuses on avoiding the worst case scenario. So it focuses on avoiding the worst case scenario. It focuses on avoiding the worst case scenario. Now, under this case, this rule is suitable when the decision maker is risk averse and want to maximize on potential losses. So want to maximize on potential losses. Now, for each alternative, so this is the decision criteria. For each alternative, find the minimum payoff. So ukiwa na when solving this kind of a situation, you locate the minimum payoff. Once you locate the minimum payoff, then you choose the alternative which maximizes the minimum payoff. Then you choose the alternative which maximizes the minimum payoff. Number two, we have max-max. So for max-max, it is an opportunistic decision rule, optimistic decision rule, and therefore in this case, we can say the max-max decision rule selects alternatives that maximizes the possible payoff. It is an optimistic approach that aims to achieve the best possible outcome. Yes. Nasemaje? Sawa sawa. It is an optimistic approach that aims to achieve the best possible course of action. So assuming favorable condition. Now, decision criteria, this is very important. Now, the first thing, you find the maximum payoff. Then afterwards, choose the alternatives which maximizes the maximum payoff. So choose the maximum payoff which maximizes the maximum payoff. That one is number two. Number three, we have minimax regret. Minimax regret criterion. We also call it. We usually call it. We also call it. Tunaitanga pia the regrets. So this is another. This has a regret also. Regret criterion. So the minimax regret criterion. So the minimax regret criterion rule minimizes the potential regrets associated with each decision. So this one minimizes the potential regrets associated with a possible payoff and actual payoff for each outcome. This rule is suitable when the decision maker wants to maximize their potential regrets. So this rule is suitable when the decision maker wants to minimize. So this rule is suitable when the decision maker wants to minimize the potential regrets or the opportunity cost of choosing each decision or alternatives. Steps. So step number 1, calculate the regrets of each alternatives. So itaonyesha how to calculate the regrets. So for now, number 1, you need to calculate the regrets. Number 2, for each alternatives, find the maximum regrets. Once you find the maximum regrets, then choose the minimum regrets from those maximum regrets. So once you determine the maximum regrets from number 2, number 3, you locate the minimum regrets, the minimum values from the maximum regrets. That one is all about it. Let's go to the next one, which is decision criterion. So there is this decision criterion. So this one is where we balance the pessimistic and optimistic conditions associated with the decision. So this is where we balance the pessimistic and optimistic decision of a decision maker. Now, how do we balance it? We balance it using a particular coefficient. We balance it using a particular coefficient, which is denoted by alpha. So which represents the decision maker attitudes toward risk. So that alpha represents the decision maker attitudes toward risk. Risk. Now this is what we can say. So this is what we can say about regrets. So for you to get the not regrets, for us to get the alternative, the best alternative, then we need to find the weighted average of each alternative. And how do we get the weighted average? We take the alpha, we multiply with the maximum payoff, then we add 1 minus alpha, we multiply with the minimum payoff. Hiyo tutafanya kwa swali. Then the last one, we have the Laplace. Now the Laplace rule assign equal probabilities to all the possible outcomes and calculate the expected value for each alternatives. So this one is where we assign equal probabilities to each alternative. That one is very, very important. We assign equal probabilities to each alternatives. Sawa, nikiendeleanga tu itajileta. Najua it is not sahi hayuko kwa screen, but itajileta tu yenyewe. Now let us go. That one is all about that decision. Now let us talk about the decision criteria for Laplace. Now number 1, we determine the expected value. So number 1, we determine the expected value. Once we determine the expected value, then we choose the highest value from each. So once we determine the value, we determine the expected value from each. So tumalizie. So that one is all about the Laplace. So hiyo sema imetukosea, but ni sawa tu. Now I hope the screen now is visible. So that is Laplace tumefanya mwisho tu, tumesema it involve assigning equal probabilities and calculate the expected value from each alternatives. And then this one hapa chini. So decision criteria number 1, we calculate the expected value of each alternatives. Once we calculate the expected value, we choose the highest value from the expected values. So, but we assign equal probabilities. Now, the final environment is the environment of competition. Now, environment of competition is the game theory. So this one was removed from the syllabus. So this one was removed from the syllabus. So this one haiko kwa syllabus, but for the environment of competition, it is where we have the conflict of interest between rational parties. Situation where we have conflict of interest between rational parties. So that is all about it. So you don't need to add anything else. So that is the concept. That is the concept of game theory. So illustration, that one is from past paper. We shall do it later. So the last item, the decision tree. Then we shall be done with this topic. So can you back to kufanya maswali. So let us see the decision tree. So decision tree are graphical representation and analytical tool used in decision analysis to model a complex decision-making process involving multiple stage, uncertainty, and sequential decisions That one is fine. So decision trees are graphical representation and analytical tool used in decision analysis to model the complex decision process involving multiple stage and uncertainty and sequential decision. So to represent them in a graph, Now let us see a sequential decision. No, let us see. So go and talk about go and look on the sequential decision. But this involves making series of choices or decision at different points in time and stage. So that one utaangalia on your own time. Key elements of decision tree, we have a decision node. Decision node is it is a square. So it is represented using a square. So this represents the points in the decision-making process where the decision maker must choose among alternative course of action. And remember, tumesema it is in form of a square. So that's a decision node. Then we have chance node. Chance node represent the uncertainty. So now we're very keen. Tumesema decision node it represent the alternatives available. Ukwe very keen. So now remember tumesema it is represented in form of a square. Then we have the chance node, which represent the probabilities or the state of nature. And remember, it is represented using a circle. This one is represented using, so a chance node is represented using a circle. Then you have the payoff of the value node. These nodes represent the outcome. Those are the final value in the onesha, how to put the final outcomes. So, nataka tuangalie to process of decision making process using tree diagram. So the process ndio hii hapa. Steps. Itu nilikuwa nataka. So it has 8 steps. So it has 8 steps. And this one will be the end of our theory so that to back in hesabu. Now, number 1, we need to define the decision problem. Na tulisema kule juu, the same na kule juu. So if you identify the decision problem, it's either you maximize on profit or you minimize on cost or you satisfy a particular level of satisfaction. Those are the objectives. So they are the objectives. So you need to define the objectives in short. Number 2, identify the decision points. Now, the decision points. So determine the different stages or decision points in sequential decision making process. The decision points represent the square. Ndio hii hapa nimewaambia the square mostly. So the square. So the starting point before uanze kuchukua the alternatives, you need to start from a particular point. So that point is what we call the decision point. Once you determine the point, then from that point, then you can come up with the alternatives. So from that point, then you can come up with alternatives. So alternatives is those alternatives available either to produce either pen A or pen B, or the list of the available. Once you identify the alternatives, number next, you determine the events and the uncertain events. So those events, it can either be favorable or worse. And remember, it is denoted using a circle venye nimwambia pale juu, using a circle. It is presented using a circle, using a circle in most scenario. Now, once you determine the certain events, remember these events are associated with probabilities. So remember, uncertain events are associated with probabilities. So once you identify the uncertain events, number next, you assign the probabilities. You assign the probabilities because those events must be assigned to probabilities. So the probabilities, remember, those are the likelihood of occurrence of events. Now, once you assign probabilities, then calculate the payoffs. Then calculate the payoffs. And in this case, because we have probabilities, we shall calculate the expected payoffs. Expected payoffs. In that case, we shall calculate the expected payoff. So calculate the payoffs of the value associated with each combination of the decision and the possible outcome. The payoff will be expressed in monetary terms, utility value, or any relevant measure. Then after that one, build the tree. Build the tree diagram backwards. So build the tree diagram. So build the tree diagram backwards. So start constructing the tree from right to left, beginning at the final stage of the decision process and working it backwards. At the final stage, represent the payoff or the value associated with each outcome as terminal nodes or the endpoints. Now, and then after that one, then we need to come up with the rolling back techniques. So roll back. So the roll back and the roll back technique. This one will be the last step. So proceed backwards through the decision tree. So unaanzia from nyuma ukikuja mbele ukicalculate the expected value. Then at the end, the one yenye itakuwa na the maximum payoff, you pick that alternative. Unasema proceed backwards through the decision tree, calculate the expected value at each decision point. Now, at each decision point, compare the expected value of the available alternatives and choose the one with the highest value. So this is the decision criteria. So this one is the decision criteria. So starting from the right or from the end, you calculate the value of each alternatives. Then you end up choosing the one with the highest as you move towards the left. So unaanza nyuma ukikuja mbele. You start from the nyuma kuja mbele. So this one you shall look at your own. These are the theories. You shall look at your own time and with the steps there, which hayuko kwa past paper. It has never been tested, but ni hiyo tu hadi hapo. So that one marks the end of the theory part. That one marks the end of the theory part. So we need to do a question. So do we start from 5:30? We do maybe 1 hour class. We do some questions.
We do a class 5:30.
Ama tuendelee, nitaka ni prepare board.
Hey. Akili imechoka.
Tukaona
Sunday.
we are on a mission.
Next Sunday, you know, it's sacrifice also other things.
So mnaonaje? What do you see? So tufanye kesho.
Kesho.
Kesho kuna kesho kutwa.
Yeah.
So I think kesho kutwa, but I wanted us to finish by 15. But ni sawa. Sawa, we shall see.
Okay.
We shall start from that point. Tuanza na hesabu from the next class.
Last time we said we will start to be standard error. Wow,
ndio nimeona nifanye hii theory. Then nifanye hizo mahesabu with the standard deviation. Then baadaye nimalizie nifanye the error ya regression.
We do on Tuesday.
Okay. So remember Tuesday class itakuwa mrefu sana. So you be ready.
Sawa, it's okay.
Sawa. So we meet on Tuesday.
Sorry.